It was at this moment that he knew. He f***ed up.
Got him!
The No Fake Channel, checking in. Jonathan here to determine if the DAPOW Sport 4-in-1 fitness equipment D1 can handle my type of scrutiny.
This is Sparta!
So full disclosure, they did send this to me for an honest review. And I told them I was gonna give them an honest review. I was gonna beat it like a redheaded stepchild. I'm gonna drive it hard and put it away wet. But because DAPOW is located primarily overseas, I don't think they fully understood what I meant by an honest review.
Do you understand the words that are coming out of my mouth?
Right off the top, what does this thing claim it can do? 4-in-1, that's right, treadmill, rowing machine, ab roller, and a strength station to boot. Unfortunately, we are off to a slightly bad start with all of the fake photoshopped images they have on their webpage.
What's in the box?
And right out the gate, this gets a check in the win column because no assembly was required. I literally cut away the box and poof, plug it in and we are off to the races. Where so many pieces of home gym equipment expect you to be Bob the Builder and contribute 3 or maybe 4 or 5 hours if you screw it up into the assembly of the equipment itself. Also, this thing's heavy. Now, oftentimes when you get some of these overseas products, they're light, they're flimsy, they're made out of cheap plastic. This thing's got some weight to her. Now, full disclosure, this is part of a Kickstarter program that they are currently getting off the ground. And I got a preliminary version of their 4-in-1 machine. When it comes to home gym equipment, we always want to get pieces of equipment that have multiple functions. It's very difficult both for money and for space to buy one piece of equipment that only does one thing. So this 4-in-1 beauty is right up many home gym owners' alley. Unfortunately, when it comes to pieces of equipment that do a whole plethora of exercises, we find that many of them just don't hit right. They just don't feel natural, and it's not what we come to expect from going to a local gym. And I will say, over all of my many home gym reviews, the equipment that does multiple exercises, I've only found a small handful that actually deliver on their promises. Now, most people are going to be picking this up for the treadmill because that's something that just simply resonates with many of us, something that we want to be able to do, especially during the wintertime when it's too dark or too icy or just too cold outside on the road. And it's nice to have in-house so you don't have to drive 30 minutes to your local gym just to walk for 20 minutes. Now, I will tell you, you can go on Amazon and you can find about 200, 250 treadmills that are just simply basic, $100 to $150, that will get the job done for walking. You can store them under your bed. You can store them underneath a walking desk. This is definitely a step up. It's actually much more sturdy than I initially thought it was going to be once I tightened down all of the bolts. And what's solid about this treadmill versus a lot of the cheaper stuff on Amazon is you can do more than walking. I got this up to a max speed of 14, still felt very stable, and I was cruising. Now, I don't think I was doing my 5K time. I wasn't certainly hitting any PRs, but for many of you, you're easily going to be able to not only walk, but jog at a pretty solid clip. Now, my only complaint about this is that the actual length of this is a little bit shorter than I would like. If you're a taller individual, you tend to have a longer stride, and it's nice to have a little bit more runway if you're going to be going fast. But since you're only going to be jogging at a solid clip on here and not running or sprinting, that's not as big of a deal. And because it's smaller, it's going to be easier to store. Now, where the treadmill gets a thumbs down is the screen. It is exceptionally basic. It certainly gets the job done for those of you that are just going to walk on this thing, but it's not going to give you any of the other analytics that some of you who typically run on a consistent basis on a treadmill want, and you can't do incline on it. You are simply at the flat level regardless of what you want to do. So the second exercise that people are going to buy this 4-in-1 for is rowing. And if you've never rowed before, it is a fantastic cardio exercise, and frankly, it's an all-over full body workout that is simply beautiful.
Forget about it.
Now, most of the commercial grade rowers are going to run you $700 to $1,200, and that is just the name of the game. Now, the problem with the rowing machine starts with your foot placement. Typically, with a rowing machine, your feet are rather close together and your hands kind of go over the top of your knees. Now, I'm not a professional rower, so take that with a grain of salt, but these are exceptionally wide and your hands are actually going to be between your legs, and it just doesn't feel right. Also, the angle that you are rowing on is exceptionally low. You got a low row angle and it doesn't feel natural. If you've ever used a rowing machine, the hand grips are much higher on your body versus kind of coming through your crotch. Now, besides the feet being too wide and the angle being too low, it absolutely gets worse from there. The resistance, because it's on a cable and not a chain, just doesn't feel natural, doesn't feel like you're gliding like you typically would if you were using a Concept 2 rower, which is usually like the pinnacle of rowing machines. Also, I will tell you that the actual seat, it doesn't feel comfortable. Now, most rowing machine seats don't feel comfortable, so that's not the biggest deal, but in terms of gliding back and forth, the seat felt like it was just rubbing exceptionally hard. It didn't feel smooth like it should. With a typical rowing machine, it will move back and forth like super buttery smooth. Now, the third thing people are gonna buy this for is to do curls. This machine can also do a whole host of exercises, or so it says, by simply using the attachments. Well, one of the attachments already broke on me, and the other attachment, while it does work, it isn't a normal natural resistance curve that you would normally get with a functional trainer. In fact, it just feels shoddy. And I jacked this thing up all the way to the maximum resistance, and it still was super easy. I think unless you're like a senior citizen, you're not gonna want to use that whatsoever. And honestly, it probably looks a lot cooler on the website than it actually does in real life. And the fourth, final, and frankly worst of the bunch has to be the ab crunch. Now, if you ever gone to a local gym, you know that they've got standalone ab machines that people love to just jump on and isolate their abs. But with an ab crunch, you will notice that the actual track of the ab crunch is curved to mimic your abs crunching as your knees come up. I tried to do it on these. It did not feel comfortable. And quite frankly, it felt uncomfortable. I felt like I was holding on for dear life, and by no means was I attacking the abs because the angle of here is straight. It's linear, which is not how the body absolutely moves. And now it's time. It is time for my final thoughts when it comes to the 4-in-1. And at first glance, on Kickstarter for $500, it seems like a steal of a deal because this has 4 pieces of equipment supposedly for only $500. Normally, any one of those would cost you well over the $500 mark. But as we know, if it seems too good to be true,
it probably is.
And that's the case with this 4-in-1. They do a few things right in that the assembly time is non-existent. You just plug it in and go as soon as you get it out of the box. And the treadmill does work, and it does work for what most people would get this for, and that is walking or lightly jogging. But after that, it is quickly downhill. The rowing machine does not feel comfortable whatsoever, and the actual resistance curve on the rowing machine, as well as the resistance curve on what they claim to be something you can do some weighted lifts, like almost replacing a functional trainer, just isn't good. It's not something that you're going to use. Now, you may say to yourself, well, you're not looking for anything with high expectations, but when you go online, they try to pull you in with a lot of like fake marketing telling you how great this is gonna be. And unfortunately, even if you had low expectations, you're probably not gonna be using this. And if you said, well, maybe you only wanna use it for the treadmill, well, you can get some really good treadmills for well under $500, ones that will not only store easily, but will be able to do an incline as well if you wanted that, give you better analytics on the screen, and probably have more side protection as far as if you would had to hold on. Unfortunately, I wanted to like this product, and frankly, as a home gym owner, we do need more products that are multifunctional, multi-use for one price and one piece of space, but this one just isn't it.
Did we just become best friends?
Yup!
You, my friend, are a legend. Don't worry, the future is bright because here are 2 brand new videos that you haven't even watched. As usual,
Don't save anything for the trip back.